to the Penny Stamps Distinguished Speaker Series. Today, being our final main stage program of this season, we are pleased to present world-renowned renegade maven of design, Renny Ramakers. Yeah, she's an exciting gal. I want to thank our partners for their support of today's program. The Detroit Creative Corridor Center, better known as DC3, which is celebrating its UNESCO designation of Detroit as the first American city of design, which they will be having lots of events around that next year, and Michigan Radio 91.7 FM. Being the last of our main stage events here at the Michigan Theater this season, today, though not the final Penny Stamps this season, we do have one more special event coming up at the end of the month, April 27th at MoCAD, downtown Detroit. We will host Rachel Kushner, the writer known as the visual artist of wordsmithing. So hopefully by April 27th, many of you students too will be done with your work and you should join us. And I do hope for students and our regular fan base that's with us most weeks that you have stuck through this season of Loom with us and that you've found somehow a few significant resonant threads of inspiration that you've been able to weave a sort of tapestry of meaning from the variety of perspectives that we have presented here on the stage. So at the very least, I hope we are all a little more aware of ourselves as meaning-making machines with the capacity to bring forth that which looms around us. Something looming on the horizon for me, this is the third and final week of the survey. I know many of you have heard me talk about this twice already, but let me say, if you haven't been here before in the last 2 weeks, or if you've been here and you have not filled out a survey, this is the final survey that will determine how the communications, marketing, advertising, getting the word out is done for the lecture series for next season. So it is imperative that we know how best to get the word out to you. So please do take this survey. It is only 8 questions. I've timed people taking it. It takes less than 2 minutes. Most important, just fill out questions 3 and 4. Those are the most important marketing questions. And especially if you're someone who does not get all of your information online and still is inspired by seeing an ad somewhere, hearing a radio spot, or having the paper print calendar in your hand, most important to hear from you because those are the things that are at stake. So thanks to everyone who has filled out a survey. Each one does count. And if you haven't, please do so on your way out today. Being the final event here at the Michigan this season, I do have a few thank yous, especially, of course, our patrons, Penny and Rose Stamps, and the U of M Stamp School of Art and Design, without which we would not be here. Yeah. And, of course, all of our students and faculty who help in hosting all of our speakers throughout the year. They're so important. And the Michigan Theater, this amazing space that we get to house this in, truly a jewel in Ann Arbor's crown, and all of its wonderful employees, truly a delight to work with, all of our organists, the managers in the front of house, Walt up in the projection booth, Rico backstage. They are our faithful crew here every week. Carl Green, I have to point out, who did all of these fantastic graphics. Amazing work for Carl Green. He is an amazing man. Andre Grew, our IT guru, and Ian Line and his Intervision webcasting crew, who capture and archive all of our talks on video. So while we're on hiatus, you can catch up on any you missed. Most of them do exist online, and they're available on YouTube and Vimeo. And the fall season, which is not yet announced, but you will be able to find it probably sometime mid-July. If you join the Penny Stamps Lecture Series Facebook page, that is the first place that it gets announced. And then, depending on how these surveys shake out, hoping it's easy for you to find out about it. So keep on the lookout. Hopefully you won't have to be on the hunt, and I will look forward to seeing all of you back here in September. Please do remember to turn off your cell phones, and we will have the regular Q&A in the screening room today, so if you would like to come and meet Renny after the talk in here, please do join us out the doors to the left, down the corridor to the other theater in the theater. And now for a proper introduction of our guest today, please welcome Stamp School Professor Osman Khan.
So the cultural scholar Bill Brown observed, we begin to confront the thingness of objects when they stop working for us. When the drill breaks, when the car stalls, when the windows get filthy, when their flow within the circuits of production and distribution, consumption and exhibition has been arrested. However, when encountering the products and projects developed by Droog, we are made aware of their relations to the larger social while they are working. Droog arguably is more than just a design company. Perhaps design laboratory, or design provocateur, or social think tank are more appropriate titles. One thing we can all agree on is the pioneering influence and impact Droog has had on stretching the borders of design thinking. Of course, one cannot speak of Droog without talking about its heart and soul. Our esteemed speaker, Renny Ramakers, co-founder and creative director of the institution. In 1993, Renny Ramakers and Gijs Bakker started Droog as an anti-statement, a no-nonsense, down-to-earth design mentality that opposed the high-style and form-based world of design. In contrast, Droog proposed a highly conceptual approach, and I might add, a humorous one captured by the Dutch word droog, meaning dry. Winner of numerous awards and accolades, Renny Ramakers, apart from running Droog, is also a critic, an author, an educator, initiating and directing numerous projects, curating exhibitions, and lecturing worldwide. As a curator, Renny Ramakers has been responsible for creating highly interactive design festivals around the world, establishing new collaborations and experiences inspired by the location. Her aim is to deliver cutting-edge content and unexpected perspectives in an interdisciplinary and a down-to-earth way. As a critic, Renny Ramakers has contributed to international magazines, books, and catalogs, and has authored several books. Her latest book is Here, There, Everywhere, which speculates how people in daily situations worldwide can inspire new directions for design. In 2012, Newsweek named her one of the 150 women who shake the world. As Ramakers once remarked, after studying art history, I reached a point in which I wanted to impact it. So please join me in welcoming someone who has made an impact, Renny Ramakers.
Thank you. Thank you, Osman. Where are you? What can I add? Let me first tell you about the wonderful time I had the last 2 weeks. My husband had to be in Havana, in Cuba, because of the Rolling Stones concert. He is a concert promoter, and I thought I'd go to join him. So I joined him to Cuba, and we stayed there for a few days in this lovely country, lovely city, Havana, and then flew to New York City, rented a car, and drove all the way to Ann Arbor. Not in one day. We spent 1 week doing this. And it was a wonderful trip, all places I have never been. And the highlight was really the Falling Waters House by Frank Lloyd Wright. I never had expected that I would have seen this in my life, and now I did, and it was mind-blowing. I don't know whether you have been there, but you are so close, but you have to go there. So that was my wonderful trip, and I'm here to tell you about my inspirations. And I got so many times the question, what inspires you and why? Even this afternoon with the journalist of the Michigan Daily asked me the same question. And I can only answer, I don't know. I just don't know. Because everything can inspire me. An article in the newspaper, a product, an exhibition, maybe your questions, maybe this theater, I don't know. So I can tell you that I'm a very intuitive person, intuitive and associative. I never plan something. I hate planning. everything I want to do at the last moment. I want to change during the process. And sometimes you have to plan things. For instance, your wedding. And I did plan my wedding, but the day before the day of the wedding, I went to the jeweler and my husband, now my husband, and we asked to make wedding rings for us. And it was the day before the wedding, and this guy was totally flabbergasted. But we just didn't think of it. So this is how I am. And every year, Droog Design has been set up in 1993. And every year we had a presentation during the furniture fair in Milan. And as we speak, it's on now, the furniture fair in Milan. And I'm here, I'm not there. And last year, I said to my team, we are not going to the Milan show this year. We definitely are not going. I was so determined. In January, the show is in April, as I said, and in January I still said, no, I'm not going. And then suddenly I saw that my team was working on a very nice project. It was a follow-up of the project Design for Download. We presented, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And the project is very simple. You download a file and let the product, the piece of furniture, produced by yourself or by someone else. So you only download our file. But we didn't know how to make a business model out of it. Because if you give a file for free or for $1, how can you make money out of it? How can you pay the designers? So we were really stuck in the process. And then suddenly I had an idea. Okay, let's make add-ons. Let's make add-ons and we sell, the people can download the file for free and we sell the add-ons. And that's how we make money. So my team was working on these add-ons. And at a certain moment, they were talking about designing hardware, designing screws and hinges and all those kind of things, all those invisible things. And the project turned out, okay, this is how you can reach me. The project turned out so nicely that I decided in February to go to Milan. And I asked my Italian intern to find a hardware store in Milan because I wanted to make a very small, very simple exhibition in a hardware store which is still operating and not in the gallery, because most of the shows are in galleries. This is the hardware. I fell in love with all these little things. This is the hardware store. And this was our whole show, just this. And I thought, okay, maybe it's a little bit too minimal. We have to do a little bit more. So we made a movie of a clumsy do-it-yourselfer. And I show you the movie, but... The solution. Okay. So we made this. And actually, the clumsy guy, the actor, is our financial manager. And he is a very good one, but he is a little bit clumsy. And then we made a do-it-yourself paper in the proper do-it-yourself style. And this is the gumball machine at the end of the video, where you can get the smileys, the screws with a smiley top. So this was our very small, minimal presentation, just last minute. Oh yeah, and this, sorry, I forgot this. And we did graffiti on the shutters, so that people could know when the shop was closed that we had the show there, and they could come back the next morning. And we got 2 awards for this simple presentation, and the wallpaper, best details. So, intuition, no last minute, no planning, that's me. And I also will tell you about 4 guiding principles in my life and work. And the first principle is that I like radical shifts. I love radical shifts. And I studied art history at the University of Leiden. And there are several ways to study art history, practice art history. And one way is to focus on continuity and to see how one artist is influenced by the other artist. That's one way. The other way is to look at radical shifts, and that was my way. So during my study, I was fascinated by the artists around the Dutch magazine De Stijl, which started in 1917 in the First World War, at the end of the First World War. And I was so fascinated by these people because they were so optimistic. They were so optimistic about what would happen after the ending of the war, and how technology could make the world in a different place, and how technology, how the world is getting away from nature and going into a world of abstraction and horizontal and vertical lines. And I read all the magazines, and I was fascinated by it. And there was a lot of humbug, what they are talking about. But it was so inspiring, and they made such a beautiful work. So that was something really what inspired me during my studies. And but there is another way of practicing art history, and that is a way of connoisseurship, to learn to know the style and the technique of an artist. And I went on an excursion to Russia, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, at that time Leningrad, and my fellow students, we visit all kinds of museums, and my fellow students were discussing hours and hours in front of a painting of Rembrandt, discussing about a detail. Was it painted by Rembrandt or by a pupil? And I felt so bored. I thought, I stop with this study because this is not what I want. And then suddenly I discovered this teapot of Malevich in the Hermitage Museum. And I'd never seen such a thing. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. And I started to study the background of this teapot. And I came across a whole bunch of artists who wanted to create a new society. It was 1917, the Russian Revolution, and they believed in the revolution, and they wanted to help to create a communist society. So they stopped, many of them stopped painting, stopped with the fine arts, and started to make posters and to make design for workermen clubs, design sport garments. And that was around 1918, 20. It was so fascinating. And this changed my life. It's changed everything. Because at that very moment, I decided to concentrate on design. During my studies, I had to do everything, art, architecture, design. And at that very moment, I said to myself, okay, now I'm going to focus on design. Because there is really a strong relationship with society. And so I did. I graduated, my final thesis was based on the difficult relationship between art and industry since the 1850s. And artists always wanted to make the products more beautiful, and the companies only had commercial targets. So there was always struggle. And in the time I did this thesis, there was the same struggle in our country. There was the same discussion about how can art and industry come together. So I wrote my thesis about an association of companies set up in 1924, Dutch companies who were very idealistic, and they wanted to have their products designed by artists, architects, and designers. It became a book. Well, here you see the work of some of these companies, what they produced. And it's all in the 20s, in the 1920s. So now I make a jump to the setup of Droog design. And after my studies, I immediately started working on my PhD. But it was disrupted very early, because after 3 months I got a telephone call from the national newspaper, and they asked me, do you want to be our design critic? Well, I had never done such a thing, but I thought, okay, I can learn, just do it. And I did it. I did it for 4 years. And writing in the newspaper made me quite well known in the country. And soon I was invited to curate exhibitions and to write articles all about contemporary design. And I was also, at the same time, I was still involved in the history. So I wrote also for museum catalogs about historical subjects. But at a certain moment, I realized that I was more interested in contemporary design, and that I wanted to be part of the future of design, and thus making history myself. And that made me decide to work only on contemporary design, never losing the past, never, but always connected to the past. Before Droog was set up, I was longing for a new movement. I was really longing for something, but it didn't happen. So I was waiting for a couple of years. Why cannot I create a new movement? But suddenly it was there, in 1991. In 1991, there was a couple of designers from all parts of the country, and they graduated on such a new stuff, so different from what I've seen before. The work was, they reused materials. That was in 1991 very new. They told stories. There was humor in it. It was playful. And it was celebrating imperfection. And design always had to do with style and perfection, and suddenly there was a whole new vision. And I thought, wow, I have to bring this together. Here is my new movement. I remember I came home and I said to my husband, I now have my new movement, where I was waiting for. So I started to organize little shows in the country, and I had a weird business model. I thought, okay, I sell all these things, and then I can cover my cost. Now, I can tell you, in 1 year time, I sold only 1 cupboard. So I wanted to stop with it. And I said to my husband, okay, it's over. It doesn't work out. And he said to me, please, please, try it another time. I arrange for you, I organize for you a nice venue. And so he did. He organized a venue, Paradiso, the famous rock club in Amsterdam, and I could use it for 1 afternoon on Sunday. I said invitations, and it means doing normal in 1 afternoon. That's all I did. A log as an illustration. It was cold, it was snowing, and the space was packed. The whole cultural jet set was there. The television was there. And at that time, I met my previous partner, Gijs Bakker, and he had already plans to go to the furniture fair in Milan with the same kind of designers. And we joined forces, and 6 weeks later, we were in Milan as Droog. Here you see the invitation from 1993. And the rest is history. It was in a palazzo, very beautiful, full with antique furniture. We only had to bring in our imperfect stuff in this beautiful space. And it was a success. We came at the right moment with the right things. And what people at that time, what people said to me, why they liked Droog so much. One of the reasons was that we combined the familiar with the unfamiliar, the ordinary with the extraordinary, poor with rich. This seemingly contrasting things, that's what makes Droog. It's a paradox. And that's the first guiding principle in my life, the paradox. I love the paradox. So here you see simple white tiles, but they all have functions integrated in it. You see a tree trunk, and there are luxurious bronze bags sticked in it. Here you see the essential elements of a lamp, a bulb, a wire and connectors, and together 85 of them make a luxurious chandelier. So there's always this contrast. And that's what I also love in this guy. This guy is Theo van Doesburg. He was the motor behind the magazine This Style. And he was very strict in his style. Total abstraction. Nothing else. But at the same time, he set up Holland Dada in 1923. Chaotic graphics. Now is well known to us, but at that time it was really new. And I was thinking, how can one guy preaching this abstraction at the same time doing this and organizing nonsense evenings?
This led to the Holland Dada tour in early 1923. It was the last significant expression of the Dada spirit by the Dadas of the era. Participants included Theo and Nelly van Doesburg, Nelly being an accomplished pianist, Hanne Hoch, and of course, Kurt Schwitters himself. All in all, they toured through 8 Dutch towns, beginning at the castle complex of the Binnenhof at The Hague. Van Doesburg opened the evening with an introduction to Dadasophy, or Dada philosophy, addressing the question, what is Dada? Schwitters picks up the story.
Since I didn't know a word of Dutch, we'd agreed that I should demonstrate Dadaism as soon as he took a drink of water. Van Doesburg drank, and I, sitting in the middle of the audience, to whom I was unknown, suddenly began to bark furiously.
So those were crazy evenings. And the audience began to shout and doing idiot things. And I started to analyze this paradox. And then I came to the conclusion that it was both sides of the same coin. So Dada had to destroy the present world. And that was destructive. And the style was constructive. Dada had to pave the way for the new abstract world. So, and that fascinated me. I was also fascinated by the Memphis and Algemia movements in the 1970s and 1980s. They did everything what was forbidden in European design. I read a book at that time, a German book from 1913, and it listed bad taste and good taste. And everything what was listed bad taste was included in their designs. So they copied a Rococo chair, making decorations from high art together. They made chaotic designs, covered the wood with decorated plastic. It was all not done. But they made, from kitsch, they made high art of it, high design of it. And that was also what fascinated me. So in my own work, I started, after a few years, I started to design projects, because I didn't only want to select the work of designers, what we did in the beginning, but I also wanted to push the envelope myself. And this is the Dry Tech project in 1995. Yeah, 5 and 6 we did this. And we did this in collaboration with the Aviation and Aerospace Laboratory of the University of Delft. And it was about high-tech fibers. And high-tech fibers were at that time only used in a functional way, in airplanes, for instance. You never saw them. And I thought, what if I connect craftsmanship with these high-tech fibers to totally different worlds? What happens when I combine these? Maybe we can create a new image for those fibers. And so I did. I invited a couple of designers, and this is Marcel Wanders. He started knotting the material, aramid and carbon fibers, and this has become a very famous chair. And Hella Jongerius, she started knitting, and the people in the laboratory thought these designers were mad, because for her it was just trial and error. You can see it's in the collection of the MoMA in New York, but it never became a proper product. And they said, she is crazy, because you can calculate everything on the computer. But she wanted really to approach the thing as a craftsman. Another project we did in 2011 in Shenzhen, China. And Shenzhen is well known as copycat. And I wanted to go into China, in copycat China, to copy them. And I invited a number of Dutch and Chinese designers to work with me. But we wanted to show them that you can copy is not a bad thing if you do it in a creative way, if you not just are doing it because you want to make cheaper products. So we started copying China. And here is every Chinese restaurant has a fish tank, because a fish tank brings luck. And we thought, why not bringing the restaurant inside the fish tank? And so we did. So, and here the teapot, and we used only half of it. And now it's a teapot, a tea for one. So that was a very fun project and very funny product. But there's always a message. There's always a message, and I always want to tell something by my projects. And here the message was, China, you are talking about becoming original, and you are setting up design schools and design museums because you want so dearly want to be original, but you are good in copying, so keep on copying, but do it in a proper way. So that was the message. And that's also a guiding principle for me. I love lightness, I love playfulness, I love humor, but it's always serious. It's always meant to be serious. For instance, this project in 2002, and it was also a last-minute project in Milan, and I wanted to rent the most dirty hotel I could find in Milan. So the guy who I asked to find these hotels for me, he showed me a few hotels, and I said to him, no, they are too nice. And he looked at me and he said, well, I have one other hotel, but I don't dare to show you. And I said, please do, show me. And he did, and I immediately thought, this is it. The hotel was stinking, it was very dirty, you wouldn't even touch the sheets. It says 1 star, but I can tell you it has 0 stars quality. So we rented this for a week, and I must say, when I came back, they had cleaned it and they had made it more nice because they knew that we were going to open it for the furniture fair show, and that was a pity. So that was the hotel, and this guy is giving you a passport instead of taking your passport. And we had, in all rooms, we had 1 object. That was all. We kept everything like it was, but only 1 object. And you could stamp a picture of this object in your passport. So this is the gym. And you can see they have tried to make... This is to personalize your room. So you can hang your shirt over the lamp. This is a bulletproof sleeping bag. This is the massage room. And here you can walk safely on a dirty floor. And the people loved it. They were queuing. And of course, again, very fun, but the message, the real message was, hey, you can create a great experience with a minimal of means. That was the message. And another project with a strong message was this one. I show now a video. Oh. So I created up, and it was a new business model. Well, I think the video was clear, and it was I teamed up with a company who was processed, and I was shocked about the amount of waste that was processed. 200,000 books, brand new, 200,000 perfume bottles, brand new, name it. Everything thrown away or recycled. And I thought, okay, let's redesign these products and bring them back in the market. It's not only a new business model, it's also a new way of designing, because you already start with a product as a raw material. So we found a few companies who wanted to work with us, and here you can see what you can make out of it. This is floor covering. This is medical instruments. And here is cups, and we printed it with all kinds of expressions. And when you turn the cup, you get new combinations. So you can get the economy of value, the economy of democracy, the faith in freedom, the faith in truth, etc. This project, because of this project, I was, how do you call it, the Newsweek, be one of the 150 women who moved and shaped the world. I was there together with Hillary Clinton and with Oprah Winfrey and all those celebrities, and I was in it. And it was a fantastic project, but it didn't work out, I tell you. And I still, I tell you why. In the first place, these cups, this company had these leftover cups, but they had only 500. And they are very popular. We have sold them all, and we can't make new ones. That's the first problem. The second problem, I had to buy these cups from this company. So we had to buy the cup. We had to put a print on it, and it would have been much, much cheaper to send the design to China and to have it produced over there. So the cup is quite expensive. And the biggest problem was that this company, this waste processing company, was calling us and said, well, we have 500,000 lamps, and you have to get it now, immediately, instantly. And I said, how can I do this? Where do I leave them? I don't have the storage for that. And I couldn't wait a week or 2 weeks. I had to do it the same day, because every day storing something costs money. And that's why these companies want to get rid of the product immediately and not waiting for us to redesign them. So that's why this project failed, but I still love the project. And another guiding principle is that I love the process. I love an open process. I love to go into processes without knowing where it ends. I love to change during the process. I want to go in a totally different direction, if possible. So this was also, and I like the what if instead of what is. And this was a typically what if project. So we did this project in New York, in the suburb Levittown. And when I went to this suburb, I lost my way all the time, because all the houses were the same, the lanes were the same, there was no activity, nothing happened, and we thought, okay, we bring in some economy, because the people living in this suburb, they had to cope with bad economics, and they had always to take the car to go to some activity. And I know in the US people are used to it, but we are not. And we like to walk. So we thought, okay, we bring in economy in this suburb. And so we asked we found some home owners, and we asked them, what would you do in your house? And this is PS 72. This woman was a school teacher, and she was unemployed for years. And she wanted, for this event, to become a teacher again. And it was a one-day event, because we are not permitted to bring in economic activity in this neighborhood. There are so many rules and regulations. And so we had to bring it as a one-day art event. And we made a school for her, and she was teaching her hobbies. And the pupils got a diploma. This was an 84 years woman, And she was living alone in the house, and we made an attention clinic for them. And for $100, you could tell her a secret, or she could give you a hug. And it was the waiting room. And here she is, and the guy is telling her the secret. And I must say, I was also in her clinic. And during my session, she started to tell me her secrets. And she told me that she was always been very jealous of her sister. It was so cute. And here there is a hug worth, I think, $300. And this woman was so happy. She sent us an email, and she had the time of her life. So, and another person who wanted to create a museum of his house. Including a shop. And this was the casino. That's why there are curtains around it. So this was really a great project. And I asked architects, because it was not only fun, it was meant to be very serious. I asked architects to make a plan what happens if houses will have extensions for businesses. And so they created all kinds of extensions, dog sitting. So everything what is yellow is the extension. Love Hotel with 2 entrances. Art gallery. Bedside story, someone telling you stories before you go to sleep. And all these businesses together would create extensions to the houses, and then the neighborhood would look totally different. So that was the message. But I remember that that there was a severe discussion in the New York Times, and the journalist was complaining that we didn't take into account all the difficulties in the neighborhood, all the rules and regulations and everything. And what I said to her, it didn't matter, it didn't help. I only wanted to show what happens if we bring economies in the neighborhood. That was all, but sometimes people don't understand that. And this is another project, and from this project you can see how my inspiration can come from an article in the newspaper. So, an article in the newspaper on the economic page, and there was a number of economists and philosophers were discussing a sustainable economy. And they came up with the idea to increase the tax on raw materials, on fossil materials, and to decrease the tax on the income tax. And they were talking about this, what would happen in that case. And in that case, companies who are producing products would have a difficult time, because when you produce products and the raw material is becoming very expensive, the product is becoming very expensive. So what are you doing? And they came up with a few suggestions, like you can focus on, instead of selling products, on leasing instead of selling, or you reuse your materials and that kind of stuff. And I thought at that moment, hey, this is nice for a project. We can do a project out of it. We can show this in Milan. We can show all kinds of new companies in Milan. So we created all kinds of brands, and those brands were partly based on designs we discovered, designers who did those kind of things already, and we created also our own businesses. And like biological, biomaterials, things to share, like this, designing products for your lifetime. So it starts with a couch and it ends up in a coffin. Or a company who is repairing things, use human hair. And these designers are fishing the plastic in the sea, and making new products out of it on the ship. Rent products. Making an environment only through digital means, so it's every time the same room, and you just change your room in a digital way. And the designer who thinks that a crowd can gather, he is training a crowd to gather the bottle caps and then make products out of bottle caps. And it says the crowd works at the moment because we couldn't show a crow on this exhibition. Or you sell illusions. So this product is only a drawer, the rest is illusion. So there are many ways to make a business out of a situation where raw materials are very expensive. So this was an exhibition they did. And here on the exhibition is a swap shop. So you don't buy things anymore, but you swap them. And here we did a presentation in Shenzhen, in China, and we created a whole city environment around these companies, like an ultimate shopping simulator. So you only shop, you simulate shopping. Gallery, because when raw materials are becoming very expensive, then plastic is becoming very expensive. So then plastic will be a gallery product, selling for thousands and thousands of dollars. Waste watchers. Wild goods, and that's porcelain made out of roadkill, the bones of roadkill. Healables, self-healing concrete. Yeah, it was also Marry Me. So you have a contract with your product, and you have to promise that you never will throw the product away. And actually, there's an artist in Holland, and she's married to a cupboard. She's really married to a cupboard. It's true. A new direction for IKEA, only sell second-hand. So this project, I love the project, and at a certain moment we had 45 directions, 45 companies. But I stopped with it because at a certain moment, many designers were doing this stuff. We're working on biomaterials, we're reusing things, and I didn't see any new directions anymore. So I think the urgency is over, and I stopped with the project. I only want to do projects which have an urgency. And my latest project is Design+Desires. And why I do this project? There are several reasons. But one of the reasons was a project we did in Rotterdam, in a very poor neighborhood, a neighborhood full of immigrants. And we wanted to do the same, a very boring neighborhood, and we wanted to do the same as we did in New York, bringing in economy in this neighborhood. But it turned out that behind the facades, people had economies. They had all kinds of companies behind the facade. And we thought, okay, we make a one-day event, we bring everything out, and we celebrate this neighborhood as an economy neighborhood. And so we made proposals to the neighborhood. But the people in the neighborhood sent us away. They say, go away, you architects, we don't want you. You take our ideas. So I was in the car going to Switzerland to the winter vacation, and I got a telephone call from my team. These people don't want to work with us, and they want us. They don't like us to work that we do this project. And they told us this neighborhood is so pampered. They have seen so many projects by artists and architects, and it didn't benefit for them at all. It was all cultural projects, and there was no benefit for them. So I was sitting in the car, and I thought, oh no, what can I do? The project was subsidized, and we had all kinds of partners. And then after 5 minutes, I thought, no, this is very good. This is very good. We can learn from this. And I said to my team, you have to go back to them and ask them, what can I do for you? So we went back to them and talked to them, and they said, we know what we can do in our neighborhood. We know. Give us the money. And we gave them the rest of our subsidy money. And asked them, okay, you come up with a report. And they came up, after 3 months, they came up with a report. And it was so disappointing. They only wanted a playground for the children. And I thought, oh, well, this is not something worth the money. Yeah, of course it's worth the money, but not if you ask someone to be creative. And we went again to them. And then it turned out what the real problem was. The real problem was that these immigrants from all over the world couldn't stand each other. They couldn't stand each other's lifestyle. We had the immigrants, the early immigrants from Morocco and the Dutch Antilles. And now we had the Romanians and the Bulgarians, and they couldn't stand each other. And that was the real problem. So then I asked how dreams, passions, and needs of city dwellers can shape the city of the 21st century. That's my latest project. And if I say the dreams, passions, and needs of city dwellers, I mean the diversity of means of dreams. And how can we bring this together in one city, even the conflicting ones? And how can we, not by creating ghettos, but doing it in a different way? And when I set up this project in 2014, 1.5 years ago, I had no idea how to do it. I knew I had to do research and how to learn to know the dreams of people. And I asked for a grant at that time, and I didn't get it because I couldn't answer the question how I would do this research. I really didn't know at that time. But I was saved by the Shenzhen Biennale, and they asked me to curate a digital platform for them, and to make an installation in the exhibition. And the digital platform should be about discussion, debate, reflection. And I thought, wow, if we do a digital platform about debate and reflection, we should do it in a different way than the platforms we already know. We should really ask the people first. We start with the people and then do the reflection. So that was my saving grace. So this is the website, so keep it in your mind. And this is what happened. the website, and we post articles all the time. People take the quiz, and we have now about 800 people who took the quiz. And what's so nice, the people are coming from all over the world. I check it almost every day, and they're coming from New Zealand, and they're coming from Canada and America, and it's fantastic. And all those people who take the quiz, we call them social citizens. And this is for instance, a few questions from the quiz. So this happens. And then you see yourself in the city, and you see what you have chosen. You can see it. And when you take the quiz, we will, and you leave your email address, we will send you updates, and we send you new polls all the time, and you will be really part of our community. And here you have a few of our citizens. And we have, now I have to tell you how we do our research. So we do our research through polls. That's one. But we also are mapping the social media. And we are mapping what people are saying on the social media. And then we look into how people make their living, how they live. Because how people live tells a lot about what their dreams are. And then we go on the streets and we talk with people. And then about these things, we have discussions and debates. So 2 weeks ago, we had in our space a debate about this subject. And it's every time it's going together with a poll. We always make mini polls and asking people questions. And then we make visualizations. And the avatar, all the parts of the avatar are related to what you are saying. So the hands, the back, the head, the color, everything. So it's all related to yourself. So every avatar is totally different. And then finally, we have this visualization. And the next step is designing. So we are designing the city. So here you see the different ways people would like to live. And we visualize this in a kind of architectonic drawing. I asked the architect, can you make an apartment building in which all these desires are united? And so he did. There is the tree house, there is a detached house at the water, there is apartment block, there is nomadic living. You can see tents in it. You can live in this part. And what we are doing, we don't see this as a design. We see it as a strategy. If you go to our website, you can see that there is a new poll online. We are asking our citizens, do you like to live in this? No? Why? Yes? In what part do you want to live? And let's say that everyone wants to live in the tree hut. Then we have to change the design totally. So it's the first design. We go back to the citizens. Their input will change the design, etc. And that's how we want to make the city. And this is an open call. It's also just online. And we have 4 topics, and you can participate. And all the topics have a paradox in it, of course. And so you can be part of our project. You can be part by taking the poll and become a social citizen. You can Be part by participating in the competition. You can be part by reflecting, reading the articles and commenting on it. So there are several ways of being part of this whole project. So this is the end, and this is me. What can I say? What is very important for me is to combine the playfulness with seriousness, to do the projects on my own way, and always with a light touch. And now I'm concentrating on this Design+Desires. And I do this because there is a big gap between bottom-up. Let me say, there's a big gap between how cities are designed, are planned, and how people live their life. And that's what I want to do now. I want to push the envelope of urban design and to design and to come up with people-centered urban design, but in a playful way. Thank you.